but I had help. My wife has been just my biggest fan, my biggest supporter, my cheerleader. She's my crew chief, and she's just is phenomenal. Middle of the night, I got a text message from him, and he says, "Brother, I've got a bottle of pills in my hand, and I'm going to take them. You need to do me one favor, do me one solid." I said, I've done a couple things for you. I've never asked you for anything, but I'm asking you this now. Give me 1 month. Give me 1 month. Make it right. Hug your family. Hug your children. Hug your mom and dad. And say, what I want to do every single day is to be an answer to somebody's prayer.
You know, if there's ever a podcast that you should listen to, I think this is going to be the one, my friend. I believe as a human, anybody that we come across that impacts our lives or that impacts the lives of others, that's big, and it needs to be discussed. Now, you're asking yourself, how do you tie that in with these little toy cars that we play with? You know, I've spent a lot of time on Facebook through our groups, and there's one man that always keeps coming up. And it's, hey, I bought a car from this guy, and it was a great transaction. He checked in on me. He genuinely cares. He follows through. He's a man of his word. And I'd see him pop up all the time, and I'm thinking to myself, well, who is this guy, right? Here's the name, but I don't know anything about him. Through our friendship with Charlie from Digital Fab, just an amazing guy. He hit me up the other day, and he said, I think I found your next guest. And I said, okay, I'll reach out to him. I reached out to him. This was on a Saturday or Sunday, I believe. And we started talking just on Facebook, going back and forth. And he shared a great story with me that immediately forced me into my office at home. And about 30 minutes later, I came out and I was in tears. And my wife asked me, she said, what's going on? And I said, just look at this. And as I sat down, she's reading, and she's a much quicker reader than I am, and she broke out in tears. And that's how you know you've got somebody good. I would like to introduce all of you to our friend, and hopefully soon yours, Mr. Ron Peacock. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you both doing?
Hey, we're living the dream.
Doing good, my friend. Great to have you on the line.
Great to be on. I tell you, I'm very honored that you've asked me to do this, and I can't even express to you the gratitude I feel in my heart.
Well, we're grateful to have you here, and
it's just amazing to me how it's like it snowballs. I mean, I didn't in my wildest dreams did I ever think that on April 27th, 2023, I'd be doing a podcast. I mean, gosh, we didn't even know what podcasts were when I was born. We had a little 3-inch reel-to-reel tape recorder, and I thought I was boss tone. And then now it's all electronic. It's like, holy, this is great. And so we can connect from so far away, but also have be connected so close and have a common denominator, which is just where I'm at. And that's my whole purpose is to be involved in this, is to be able to share my story and to share my Jesus with people.
You brought up the word connect, and that's what we want to do with this one is, really connect with people. And I know it's going to. And, we've talked to, we try to cover the whole genre of this hobby, right? So we've talked to track owners, and we've talked to companies that make things. What's really special that you're coming to the table with is we're talking to from a driver's eye, right? From a driver's perspective. But beyond that, somebody who reaches, has far more to talk about outside of this hobby, right? So,
Ron, you developed an interest, in RC cars after you were taking it, and really cars in general, right? After your uncle took you to a race car track, I believe you told me. So talk to me a little bit about that. How'd you all get started?
In 1963, 64, I was introduced to my uncle, Michael Eddy. He was owned a race car. And it always fascinated me. Cars because I loved cars. I'd love to be able to go and clean my parents' car and make it look nice because I wanted to have the hot rod that everybody looked at when you're going down the street. And then when my uncle had a hard top back in, like I said, in the 60s, we went to Vallejo Speedway, which was consequently the same track that Jeff Gordon got his start on back in California. And he rode these hardtops, and I thought, man, these guys are just going crazy. These old 1932 coupes going around the track, chasing these are like dogs chasing a rabbit. And I go, this is fun, and it's noisy, and it smells good, and it got me. And so my dad took us every weekend. We went because he was his uncle's nephew, and my uncle adored my father. And so it was just a time family to connect. We saw the family aspect of it. We sat with my aunt. My cousin was on the crew team, and I got to wear my uncle's jacket, which was, it was the race car jacket. It had a number of his car on it. And I just felt so cool wearing that. Everybody looked at me because I had the jacket on it. So it grew over and over again. And then it was interesting. In 1976, I started working at a toy store, and in the Bay Area, and I started on my 18th birthday, and that's when RC cars were just coming out. And I remember my first RC car. I thought it was great. It was not. Now I look back and I'm going, this was really pretty cheesy. But when you push the button on this remote control, and this little wheel would turn around, and you'd stop, and it would turn that way wherever the arrow pointed, and it went maybe. It just crawled along, and it was during the CB Citizen Band's radio time.
Yep.
And so a guy would keep his microphone, and my radio control car went crazy on the same frequency.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, this isn't fun anymore. And then they started building up other cars and a little faster. I remember getting an Indy car for the first time. It would go by itself, but the only control you had was a right turn or a left turn. And you got to be good, or you're going to crack it up really good. Wow. And so I worked there for 3 years. I never had a paycheck because I always bought toys.
Why does that surprise me?
Yeah, I mean, but they say now it's the only difference between men and boys is the price of their toys.
Yeah.
And so this was just so fascinating, and so it was fun. And then Cox Sanwa was just coming out with remote control, radio control, and my first and last experience with an airplane. I said, you know what? I'll never be a pilot, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, those are tough.
I tried to do a glider, and it didn't work. And I said, forget it. I'll stick with the cars, and I'd rather be on four wheels anyway. So I got my first real RC car in 77. It was a Cox Lamborghini, and man, it was fun. All it was is a little square box with a wheel that you turn as a joystick and a little lever that you push for the accelerator. And it was fun. And it was not on the same frequency as the CB radio, so I was really doing well.
So what, you were about 19 then?
Yes.
Wow.
You don't do the math now. I'm old, okay? I'm really old.
Well, no, it's funny because you talk about that, the old Cox airplanes. I had one that was on a string. You basically go in a circle, right? And you just up and down. So that Cox Lamborghini that you had, was that nitro powered? Was that?
No, that was battery, but the
Really?
batteries only last for 5 minutes. So it was NiCad battery. You just had to, you had to make it count because you just had to make it go. Then they came out with the little Cox castor oil cars.
That's right. Yeah.
And oh man, that was again. They were messy because that oil, that gas was it was all over the place.
It's stinking, right? Ugh, get on your hands.
Yeah, you think what is castor oil? Okay, you guys are probably too young to know what castor oil was, but we were kids. My mother would put castor oil and cod liver oil down my throat to make you feel better. But I'll tell you, it's not for running cars. And so this was really cool because now the cars are going about 5 miles an hour, but they were screamers. But the gas wouldn't last as long. But so that's when I got into that nitro portion of it. And so I worked at the toy store for 3 years, and then I said, I just can't do this anymore. And but during that time, I started going to the San Jose Speedway, and San Jose Speedway, that's where I don't know if you guys ever heard of Howard Kading. The Kadings were there. The Sargents were there. Al Pombo and all these other California drivers. And it was an old track by an airport. It was a little quarter-mile asphalt track. I mean, you got asphalt thrown into your face the whole time, but man, you were crying because the asphalt in your eyes, but you were having such a great time. It was okay. You didn't mind crying because everybody was crying. And then they moved over to the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds. It had a dirt track there, and that's where they brought the sprint cars in. And I thought, oh, this is cool. Those little airfoils on the top, the wings, and all this other stuff. And and that was probably back in 79, 80. So I was a little older then, and not going to give you the age yet. And
I'm doing the math in my head, Ronnie.
There you go. There you go. I said, I want to be on a pit crew. And this guy says, man, you're nuts. You don't want to go on a pit crew. I said, yeah, I do. He goes, you don't see anything. It's a lot of work, and you don't get paid anything. I said, that's okay. I just want to do it. And I actually got to do it for 6 years. And he was right. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, and it didn't pay anything. And but again, the camaraderie was where it was at. Yeah. I got to go in Victory Circle one time, and it was like the highlight of my life. You would thought that I was a kid in a candy store. And,
wow,
it was a lot of fun.
What kind of cars? So that you said it was sprint cars that you were?
Yeah, with the 410 Sprints.
Wow.
We either had a 360 or a 410, and you see this 1,500-pound car going down the road doing a wheelie. I'm going, oh, now this is cool. And that smell of the methanol burning was even better. That was the cherry on top of the sundae.
Yeah, that smell.
Now, Ron, were the Kadings, were they running did they migrate over to the sprint cars at that time? Because I know there's Kadings that even still run sprint cars.
Yeah. Bud Kading, Tim Kading, and the grandfather Howard and Howard's son Brent. That they were all running out of San Jose. We bought all our supplies from them at Kading Performance at a Campbell. And so I got to know all of them. And again, that community was incredible, and learned a lot about myself during that time. And I realized after being involved for so long that I could not be on a non-Christian team. The things that were going on, the drinking. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been 38 years clean and sober. It was starting to compromise me, and I thought it's too easy to go back and get involved in this, and I just couldn't do it. And then I had the honor to get onto a guy who was a Christian. He was a deacon in my church, and got to work on his team. And that was when we worked. Was an asphalt. It was a NASCAR sanctioned league. And they just said, oh, dirt. Dirt is what they use to we drive on to get to the asphalt track. Mm-hmm. So you talk to the dirt car drivers. They say, well, the asphalt's just to get us to the track so we can run our track on dirt. So it was a constant battle back and forth. So I got the best of both worlds. So, so I was doing. I started working in a crew in 1991, and then I said I went to all different tracks. 2005 to 2017, I went to Daytona, the only Daytona 500 race that got rained out. Traveled across the country from California all the way. Oh, let me tell you, my son's in the Air Force, and I want to just really thank him for his service. Peter Flores, he is just a godly Christian man, and he is working as a chaplain's assistant. He's going into his 18th year in the Air Force, and just doing a phenomenal job. And he went out and he goes, I got a surprise for you. I said, what's that? Well, it's going to be in the mail, and I want you get to get on the airplane and come see me. I'm going, okay. Well, I got in the mail and these tickets to the Daytona 500. I mean, talk about the pinnacle of auto racing. I mean, that to me, it surpasses the Indy 500, because I was always been, stock car fan. And we get there, and they run the race on Friday. It wasn't Xfinity. Maybe it was Xfinity. I can't remember what it was then.
The Busch Series
maybe something of that sort. It was something. And so we're driving. He was in Tampa, so we drove up to Orlando and going, it looks like it's going to rain. He goes, oh, that's the way it always is in Florida. Don't worry about it. It rains. It looks like it's going to rain, but it doesn't rain, and the sun comes out. I'm going, okay, well, this is great. We get up there, and it's raining. I mean, it is raining. I mean, they were golf ball sized raindrops. I'm going, it doesn't look like it's going to clear up at all. He goes, no, maybe not. But then they kept delaying the race and delaying the race. I said, even to go one lap, it would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Would you see these cars on there? And well, unfortunately, as we all know, it was the only rained out time they had it. And
Did you have fun?
You know what? It was a time of my life. It was a perfect time to go to the garage, see the drivers, and talk to them, and then to be able to spend the time with my son. It was priceless. It was absolutely priceless.
That's what it's about.
So
here's where I had a couple of questions, Ryan, because I was looking at your bio, the 2005 to 2017, and all those races that you went to. It says Phoenix, Talladega, Sears Point, Daytona. And I share with you on your Daytona experience because, I went just 6 years ago. I went to Charlotte for the 600 2 years in a row and got rained out and couldn't stay till Monday. So I missed the race 2 years in a row. Watched it rain. But anyways,
I feel your pain. I want you to know. I feel the pain.
Right. But it's just part of being a race fan. But so in that time span, I mean, that's really some of the golden days of NASCAR racing. Like myself, I just happened to be blessed that I was at the 1979 Daytona 500, the one with the crash and the fight with the Allisons in Yarborough. And that was so cool to see. So in your time frame, you must have seen some pretty classic NASCAR moments. Do you remember some of those?
You know, I remember when Jeff Gordon beat Dale Earnhardt. That was it was great. And just you see Dale Earnhardt basically take his hat off to Jeff Gordon and just gave him the old Dale Earnhardt smile. He says, you may have got me this time, but you're not going to get me again.
Right.
I remember watching TV when Dale Earnhardt passed away. I just looked, I said, how could that be? We've been in worse hits before. It was just his time.
Yes.
And I sat there and going, I saw the community of NASCAR come together and just really it took this man and just in some ways they idolized him, which was kind of bothersome. What my thought was at that time, I said, and it may sound cheesy, but it just, can we not idolize our Jesus like that? Can we not look at our, the creator instead of the created like this?
Sure.
And I didn't want to minimize the folks' pain or minimize what he was to accomplish. My whole desire was that he would be able to spend eternity in a much better place than the alternative, and that was my whole concern at that time.
Yeah, well said.
And to see the Kyle Larsons now going where Kyle Larson and we used to race together up at Chico. I mean, I never got inside of a car because I always tell everybody my shoulders are too big. I can't get in the car. Forget everything else. But the shoulders are too big. But to see Kyle Larson get into a sprint car and do things with a sprint car that I've never seen my whole life, and to see him now at NASCAR is just phenomenal. And consequently, my first 1RC car I turned the sprint car into a Kyle Larson car. I said, that's it. And we're going after Kyle Larson. And so I started buying, I started out, believe it or not, I started out with the old Losi 110 scale cars.
Okay.
The sliders, the large sprint cars. And I thought these things are really cool. I couldn't find a place to run them. I would have been down my street and going 35 miles an hour down the street, but it wasn't as fun. And then this guy saw that I had a few on eBay, and he's a guy that was a Lockheed engineer. He goes, you got to come up to my track, which is only an hour away from you. And I built a scaled track of the San Jose Speedway on dirt to run the 110 scale cars. I'm going, oh yeah,
right. That got to be right up your wheelhouse.
Yeah. So we went up there and we spent the afternoon up there, and my car batteries all died. I couldn't even race a car up there. But looking at that track, I was like in heaven. I was like a kid with my nose pressed up to the glass at the closed ice cream store, just waiting to get in there. It was phenomenal. And so that Losi stuff phased out with the 110 scale because I couldn't find parts. If I did find parts, they were really expensive. And then that's when the local uh, hobby store here in I live in beautiful sunny California today. It's like 80 degrees out here, not a cloud in the sky. So it's beautiful. And so we went down to the hobby shop, and the guy says, "Well, what about these 1RC cars? They're sprint cars." I said, "Yeah, but man, these are tiny."
Yeah.
He goes, "No, they're 1/18 scale." I said, well, "What do you mean 1/18 scale? 1/18 scale mini sprint car is like twice the size." He goes, "Yeah, but that's not really 1/18. It is, but it isn't." So I looked at it, I said, "Oh, this car's sweet." And my first one was clear. And I'm going, "Oh, this is really kind of cool." And so I looked at it, I said, "This is easy to work on." I said, "And you can get parts for them too?" And they said, "Absolutely." I said, "Okay, well, this works for me." And so then I got in contact with, I don't know if you know David Just from Just Signs and Designs.
Okay.
And David and he's back in Ransomville, New York, an old racer that got into a bad accident and got a brain injury. And so he decided his way to stay involved in racing was to do wraps for these cars. And so I got to know him, and he was making custom wraps. And so before I knew it, I know my wife's going to listen to this, but I got to tell you, I had over 200 cars, 201 RC cars.
Whoa. Did I hear the number 200? I thought I was bad, brother. Wow.
Brother, I'm a raceaholic, one RC-aholic, okay? I mean,
yeah, you are.
One is not enough, and any's too many,
Now, did you hide those off? Let me just pump the brakes here for a second. Now, did you hide all those from your wife? Or were you a good husband and said, "Honey, here they all are"? Which one was it?
Come into my man cave, honey. Okay. I need to make some shells. She was like, "What do you need shells for?" I said, "Well, I got a couple of cars. Not a couple. I just do a couple of cars, okay?
A couple hundred.
If you saw I got my little man cave here, okay? And I got 24 rows of 20-foot shelves, okay? And they're filled with 1RC cars. I got the sprint cars, I got the late models, I got the EDMs, I've got the modifieds, and I got the new dirt asphalt car. And I started collecting these things. And then I decided, you know what? My desire is to use these cars and use my desire for these cars to look at a ministry, use it as a ministry. I want to take them to my church and let the kids have a day with dad and mom, just connecting and playing. And my first outing at the church was about a year and a half ago, and we had maybe 10 people showed up, and it was fun, but it wasn't my desire.
Yeah.
And 4 years ago, I came down when I have a terminal illness. And I'm going on vacation in the end of May. My wife and I are going to take a cruise to Alaska. And when I come back, I'll be entering hospice care. And so I said, I'm making these days that I have left, they are going to count 100% to share the gospel, to share the time, share what I have with people. And so last weekend, the 15th, whenever that was, last weekend or weekend before, I spent the week getting cars ready to take to my church. We had advertised it for a month at the church, and we're going to have a day of RC cars, and to come one, come all, family come out. Guys, 40 people showed up. I had 50 cars going. I had my track out there. I had people running the cars on the track. They were doing on the outside. But what touched my heart, I sat back and I had the look of a proud father smile on my face. I saw a young father. He was probably, of course, they're all young compared to me, probably in his 30s, late 20s, early 30s, sitting on the floor with his arm around both of his children, with a control in each of their hands and his hand on the controls, also running a car up and down the carpet, and looking at them get excited, jumping up and down in his arms, and him just taking that time and having a moment together. Guys, that's what it's about. That was what I was looking for. That connection is what made it for me. And it was probably, I'm not sure I can do it again. It took a lot of energy for me to do that. And I was down for about a week afterwards. The preparatory work of getting, I charged 150 batteries. I paired all the cars. Each car had its own radio, and just all these things, and putting the cars back together, packing them all up and getting them to the church was a lot of work. But I had help. My wife has been just my biggest fan, my biggest supporter, my cheerleader. She's my crew chief, and she's just is phenomenal. And if I can, so that's what I say. That was why my goal is. I want this as a ministry, and I'm going to do. I'm going to come back to something afterwards. I want to share that this is how I've looked at this whole thing with these RC cars, and then I have used it. Wanted to be a ministry. About a year ago, I was going on, I forget where I was doing something, and I went online on the Facebook groups, and this guy says, "Hey, I'm looking for a car. I really can't afford a whole lot. Is there anybody out there that was willing to work with me on something?" And I just really felt impressed. I said, "You know what? I need to get this guy a car." And you know what? I had 2 extra cars that were just, I mean, they weren't the greatest cars, but they weren't the worst cars, and they were 2 sprint cars. He loved sprint cars. And I shipped him to him, and come to find out that he was in the hospital because he was paralyzed from his armpits down from a motorcycle accident. And he was able to operate his hands enough to work on a remote control. And this just lit up his life. He just was just in heaven. And I started to share the Lord with him. I just said, you know, I really need to share with you what this is all about. And I said, you know, I really felt that God had shared with me that I need to share these with you. And he kept saying, "Oh yeah, well, that's fine. That's great. I appreciate it. You know, I'm not so much about, you know, spirituality." So I said, "That's fine. Just know that I'm praying for you every day." And he goes, I appreciate that. And so he came home from the hospital and was doing okay. And he contacted me weekly. Just goes, "Well, how's it going?" He called me his Christian brother, my little Christian brother. Well, he's about 20 years younger than me. Mm-hmm. But he kept prodding me on it. And I kept saying, "Okay," you know. And so one day, I guess it was in the about middle of the night, I got a text message from him. And he says, "Brother, I've got a bottle of pills in my hand, and I'm going to take them. I'm through. I can't do this anymore. It's too hard." And we texted back and forth for probably 2 hours. I said, "You need to do me one favor, do me one solid." I said, "I've done a couple of things for you. I've never asked you for anything, but I'm asking you this now. Give me 1 month. Give 1 month, and you sell yourself out to God for 1 month. And if your life has not changed in that 1 month, go back to what you're doing. And you won't ever have to, I will never bring it up to you again." I said, "But if you give it 1 month, I can guarantee you by the 3rd day, you will be a changed man. You will have a joy that you have never had before." And he said, "I'll do it." I said, "Okay." And you know what? 4th day, he called me and says, "You're absolutely right. This is who I talked to today." I said, "I don't know. Who'd you talk to today?" He goes, "I talked to Jesus today." That's where it's at. Okay. A piece of plastic wheels with a motor on it. God wastes nothing. Nothing. You know, we may see it as a small nothing, but in eternal things, it's huge. This guy's life has been spared, not because I gave him a car, but because he gave his life to the Lord. And that's where it's at. That's what I wanted for these cars. And I have met countless people that I have prayed with on the over the phone, like we're doing now, or FaceTime. I met Mike Hildebrand he's out of Aurora, Missouri. Gary Ankrum, who's a brother out of North Carolina. Tony Holbert's out of New Mexico. I talk to daily. Chad Coy. I don't know if you guys know Chad Coy from Coy Brothers RC.
Yeah.
Yep.
Matt Murphy, Charlie Kuzma, and then Tim Schallenberger. These guys these are just guys that are all in the same thing, that have the same hurts, they have the same things that we all go through, but there's a comfort level that we can talk together. And it was just really, really quite exciting to see that happening.
You know, Ron, I get choked up. I mean, you've told me that story before. Every time I hear it, I can't help but to think. And you know, I've said a lot that this whole thing for me is all about, it's the fellowship, right? And you know, and you've heard that in previous podcasts, and I beat it to death, but it's so darn true. And I think the thing that I needed most out of all of this is to find someone like you to give me, to recenter me in a lot of ways. And so, you know, you talk about the impact that you've made on just one gentleman's life. I want you to know that you've impacted many others. You know, I've talked to Charlie. He and I have had some great conversations. He's a great man, and he's a brother of mine. And you know, it's just what you've done. It has changed a lot of people. You know, you said something to me the other night when we were on the phone. I told you, I made a comment. I said, well, I'm still at the office. And he said, brother, I've never heard a man on his deathbed said I should have spent more time at the office. I literally got up 15 minutes later and went home. And I told my wife that. And I go, you're never going to believe what Ron told me. And she's like, well, I always tell you, you know. And I said, but it's different. It's just different, honey. And so you've impacted our community. And I want you to know that what you're doing is not going away. Somebody is going to take that lead someday, whether it be me, whether it be Charlie, you know, whether it be Gary. One of us in our brotherhood is going to take that lead. I can assure you of that. And, you know, it amazes me. It just amazes me that you can have a terminal illness and remain so positive and so centered on what's important.
It's God and God only. I mean, I can't imagine going through, looking at death and saying, without God, without having that hope. Somebody says, oh, there's no God. I said, you know what? I would rather believe and be right than not believe and be wrong.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking eternally. You know, and my thing, I say now that I want every day that I have here to make it count. In one, you know, whether it be small or big, make it count. Nothing wasted. Ever since I was a child, probably 7th or 8th grade, I heard a pastor preach one time. I walked away from that and say, what I want to do every single day is to be an answer to somebody's prayer that day. You know, and you know, that's where I'm at. And I share with you folks that are listening, get things in order. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You don't know what this afternoon, this evening is going to bring. Make it right. Hug your family, hug your children, hug your mom and dad. You know, make things that are there important. It isn't the things. It isn't the 200 cars that I had. I've been selling a lot of my cars off because I want to, you know, and that's how I got to know these people. And I built a reputation of selling a good product at a fair price and standing behind what I sell. And I will ship it out, and it'll be good. If it's something wrong, I will make it right. If you don't like what you're getting, let me know. I'll refund you. You send it back to me. And that's where it's at. And I don't need to do this, but I need to do this. Does that make sense? You know, I've been told that I need to do this. I had 2 young high school kids that came to the track 2 weeks ago. They were helping me out. I'm looking to them to pass the torch on to them. Let them take over these cars and keep it going out here. Like catch the vision that I have for this is my desire. And I have a church that is a pastor that is willing to support me in this, in what I'm doing. He gives us the time. We open up the sanctuary, put it in the sanctuary. We take the whole thing up, and it's phenomenal. And I I ask that anybody has any questions, they can look me up. I'm easy to find. I'm all over Facebook, and but just the people that I've met have made my life so much richer and so much um, filled it so much more, having these people in my people like you two are just. I haven't met you personally, but I feel the connection that is. I can't explain it. It is unexplainable. I cannot. I've never met any of these guys that I deal with in person. It's only through either text messages or through uh, FaceTime calls. Never met them personally, but the brotherhood, the common bond there, and they know I make no apologies. I make no excuses for my love for God, and just share that with them. And if that makes you uncomfortable, then you need to work on it, because it's your issue, not mine.
Right.
I'm not gonna apologize for it.
No, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't, brother. And that just again, you talk about that impact people have made on your lives. I want you to know that holds true for all of us. In talking with Charlie and Gary, you've changed our lives in the short time that we've gotten to know you. And this is what it's all about. This is being a human, right?
Yeah,
this is what
that's
we
right.
need to do. And it's funny you talk about pastors and all of that stuff. There's something funny that my pastor Chip told me years ago. He said, everything you want to know is in this book. You just got to know where to look for it. And that resonated with me. I actually wrote that in the front of my Bible. And
That is your roadmap to life.
it is. It is. And everything you're talking about, Ron, it's in there. And I've actually challenged myself in the past few weeks to look at that, and what you're doing, it's the right path you're taking. So I'm just thankful and grateful for you doing all of this.
It is absolutely. Thank you.
No, we're getting deep, brother. But this is your story, because you've taken plastic, right? You've taken plastic and you've brought people together. And I've said it all along. That's what it's all about, and that's the fun part of this, because
absolutely
knowing we can pick up the phone and talk to anybody at any time. That means something to everyone. Knowing that you've got a brother on, Charlie in Florida, right? Yourself in California. Man, I'm coast to coast with brothers. That's what it's about. I went to a couple weeks ago. I ran a 1RC race in St. Charles, Illinois, and George Mari, a good friend of ours that races the Underground, Nick Ciccone came. His son Angelo came. It's like, I didn't know these guys 5 years ago. We didn't have anything to bond over. And it's like, now we do. And, man, this is what it's about. And I'm glad you understand it. And your story here is what people need to hear, even outside of RC racing, right?
What's really exciting, another way I'm able to touch people in ministry, is I send out a scripture verse every morning to over 100 people.
I get it every day.
I know you two are recipients of it.
You say very proud to be on that list. Yeah, very proud to be on there. Very inspiring.
Especially you guys are lucky, because you're 2 hours ahead of me, so you're not getting woke up at 6:45 in the morning. But it's the first thing I do when my feet hit the floor, is I send that verse out, because that's how important it is. And many people said that's exactly what I need to hear that day. I'm going, praise Jesus. That's where it's at. And I just, if you guys have any other questions you wanted to ask me, I mean, I'm an open book.
You've kind of covered a lot of it, Ron. I mean, you really have. And it was important for us to get you on the show, because we've developed this friendship and this brotherhood over the past couple of weeks, maybe a month actually. But it was important for us, for not only our friends in the 1RC hobby in general, but just people. They have to hear a story about not only what you've done, right, for this hobby of ours, I guess this industry that we're in, because that means a lot. It does. Helping people out, because I've bought used cars before online. I've gotten burned. Charlie actually told me a funny story. We were talking was this last week or maybe the week before, and he said, I'll tell you how I met Ron. I bought a car from him, and he goes, it was, I think what it was. Oh, it didn't have a actual 1RC motor
Crown.
in it. It
was a Silver Crown.
Silver Crown car. It didn't have a 1RC motor, and it had like an aftermarket, and it was missing 2 wheel bearings. And Charlie's like, Ryan, I literally did not want, because he goes, Ron kept like texting me, Facebook messaging me, hey, how's the car? How's the car? And I didn't want to be rude. And he goes, finally, I just had to tell him. I just felt compelled to tell him. And he goes, instantaneously, I got a message back saying, no worries, I'll take care of you. I'll ship out the parts. Charlie's like, you don't have to do that. And then, I think this was on like a Friday or something, or maybe even a Saturday.
Yeah, I think he said over the weekend.
Next day air, these parts come and they're at his doorstep. And he goes, Ryan, my jaw hit the floor. He goes, I can't even imagine what that cost him, right? To California to Florida, next day air. And I thought, Charlie, here's something though. Awesome customer service, right? Just if you're looking at it from that business perspective. But this is just a good human doing right. And so we talked about that. We joked around a little bit about it, but that's big. And that goes into your core values on who you truly are and how you try and live your life. And, for buying cars online, I mean, again, we'll talk about the plastic, but buying cars online, here's a reputable person that's doing it and honest to a fault. Right. And so
can I share something with you about that car?
Absolutely.
He won first place last week in it.
I did see him. He posted on Facebook. That was the actual car?
That was the actual car.
Oh,
that was
man.
the actual car.
Oh,
what's really cool too? Tony Holbert out of New Mexico sent me a picture. He did a clean sweep of all 3 of the cars I sold him, won first place last weekend.
No kidding.
That was like, you want to talk about a proud papa? Oh man, I couldn't be more proud of that. I was a proud daddy.
Yep, those Peacock cars. So you've affectionately named your collection, right? The Peacock 1RC Racing Museum. Is that correct?
That's right. And Gary Ankrum did a wrap for it. I think you guys got one of the cars, and they are limited edition. And if anybody wants one, you can give them my information, and I'd be happy to get a wrap to you. And made by Gary Ankrum. They are numbered, and they are really, it's on the late model, and they're nice. And you just tell me what color, what number you want, and we'll make it happen. The cost is $60 or $65 shipped to you. I wish I could do it for free for you, but I can't. But they'll be to you, and you can do it, or you can send me your car, and I'll put the wrap on for you, however you want to do it. And it's just pretty exciting to see the excitement of that, and it's a great looking wrap. I mean, Gary did a great job on it.
Yeah, they do look great. And just so you know, Ron, like you talk about your ministry and the extension of that, like you're reaching out to Wisconsin this weekend because these cars did arrive. We're putting them on display at our race on Saturday, and there's some people that are already on your daily prayer that run at our track. And have said how much that has impacted them and keeps them justified to center. But there'll be more people there that will see that, and we'll be able to tell that story, and it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I brought that car in today. Obviously, David and we opened up our package together, and I was walking around with that car. There's another guy that we race with here, and I was showing him. I'm like, look at this car Ron he sent, And I was spinning the rear wheels, and I was like, man, that rear end is smooth, And he's like, oh, maybe you should take that out and put that in your car. I was like, this thing is not getting touched. This is a shelf queen. It's going in a case. Everybody can look at it, but this thing she's sitting the way Ron sent it. And so, but it's a great story to tell. And now I've got something to say, even to my kids, to say, Dad, what's with that? And now I have a story to tell them. And that can segue into so many other things. and even my own bit of ministry, right? And
Yes.
I'm very proud of that, Ron. And I just can't thank you enough for doing that for me. It means a
To
lot.
God be the glory.
Amen.
You know, and I got to tell you, you guys may be old enough to know this, okay? But I am so looking forward to that 3E ride up to heaven, from earth to heaven. And the triple E card. You guys remember E rides?
I don't. I'm a young pup, buddy.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to age you, buddy.
Disneyland had a ticket book when you went in. You could buy had an A ticket, which was a little low rides, but the E ticket was the big ones. That was the Matterhorn, all these other things. So going from Earth to heaven is a 3E ride. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be just bang like that, and I am so looking forward to it. And I'm just looking forward to being in his arms, being able to run into his arms without being out of breath, and being able to just spend the rest of eternity praising him.
Amen. Ron, we just can't thank you enough for telling your story. What wound you up about the racing and all of that stuff, and got you into even just into 1RC. This is something that's deeper than the plastic that we play with. And
Absolutely.
Your message, brother, your thoughts on life, on what's important, is what people need to hear. And I think nowadays more than ever. And
Amen.
The fact that we have this platform to do this on is it's a blessing and a curse sometimes. But this time it's a blessing to have someone like you on, who can share our appreciation for you, people that can, listen to this and really get it. And that's what it's all about. So, I don't know. I wish I would have met you 15 years ago. I think you could have impacted my life when I was going through a lot back then, even more. But you know what? We're going to make the best out of the time we have together, and
Absolutely,
and have fun with this. But I'm just glad that this is a story you get to tell, and I hope that your family and friends, and brothers can listen to this and know what it's all about. I keep saying that over and over again, but that's truly it. And so I can't thank you enough for taking the time, the energy. You poured a lot into this too, brother, and that means a lot to us. And this is a moment which I will cherish the rest of my life, and that I'm going to be able to talk about for years and years and years to come.
Well, I thank you for the time also, guys, and I look forward to hopefully see you face to face someday. But if I don't see you here or there, I'll meet you in the air.
You betcha, brother. You betcha.
Take care, brother. All right.
It's just been an absolute pleasure, Ron. Yeah, I don't know how I follow what you and Ryan have both said, and just your positive attitude, but just know you are an incredible inspiration to us, to all the people you named, obviously your family, and now just thousands of people that will get to hear this. Your inspiration will just continue on.
Wait, last thing, God did tell me he's got an RC car in heaven. He won't tell me what time I'm racing now.
And that's okay. You'll be ready, won't you?
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for what you do with this podcast. And God bless you all. And we will talk soon.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Go Fast RC Graphics by Turn 4 Studios is your one-stop for all your RC graphic needs. Custom design from start to finish, Go Fast can have you looking your best on race day. Quality vinyl wraps that won't weigh you down. Go Fast can cover your car, your racetrack, and your trophies. Go online to GoFastRCGraphics.com and get your team looking right on race day. Right now, you can use the promo code UNDERGROUND for 10% off your next purchase. That's GoFastRCGraphics.com.